Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome here to the launch pad. You are looking at a live view of the Starship orbital launch pad, where SpaceX is in the midst of full stacking Starship ahead of IFT-3, currently targeting March 14th for launch. If it's your first time here, welcome. My name's Zach. I'm the founder and host here at the Launchpad, and on behalf of the entire TLP crew, we're glad to have you joining us here live, either on our 24/7 countdown to launch stream or our full stack coverage. But we wanted to jump on here live, as this is the first time we have had our 24/7 countdown to launch camera up for a full stack. It looks like a beautiful day down at Starbase, Texas. A little bit gray, but some great clear views of the pad as Starship is currently being stacked on to Booster 10 ahead of March 14th's targeted flight. If it's your first time here, though, welcome here at the Launchpad. It's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow, because we believe that space is better together. And take a moment and let us know in the chat where you're watching from. We'd love to give some shout outs to you. If you have questions, you can send those in the chat by tagging us at the Launchpad, and we work to answer every single one of those. If you want to jump the queue and be the next question, you can send that as a super chat, but it's not required. We do try to still answer every question that is in the chat. If you haven't yet, though, take a moment, engage that like button, share out the stream, invite people to join us. We're going to be moving the camera around a little bit, seeing what we can do to get you guys a little bit of a better view as we continue to count down to launch of Starship IFT-3. Bear with us just a minute here as we really prepare for what hopefully will be not an orbital flight, but the first successful flight of Starship. You can see Starship has already been lifted about 2/3 of the way it has to be for a stack to be complete. Soon they will begin to swing it over the booster and then slowly lower it down on top. A wet dress rehearsal was already completed, and the flight termination system has been installed onto Starship and the booster in preparation for the flight later this week. Great to see so many people tuning in the chat. Let us know in the chat where you're watching from. Noah's watching from Eden Prairie in Minnesota. We got Rosteron, sorry if I'm saying that wrong, in Galloway, Ireland. Fun Awesomes in Houston, Texas. We have Dundagad, sorry if I'm saying that wrong, in Dublin, Ireland. I see Colorado, Netherlands, Singapore, Wisconsin, North Carolina. Lots of people tuning in. We got Nottingham, UK. We got Perth, Australia. Great to have you all joining us here. I see Italy as well, and Canada, Ohio, Hawaii. Really everyone tuning in from absolutely all over the world. And we're glad to have you joining us here today. We first want to say thank you so much to all of your guys' support over the last just over 3 years. Because of that, we've been able to expand our team and our equipment to bring you these live views as we count down to launch. And this is just the first of many live cameras that we are working on around the world, and that's only possible thanks to your guys' generous support. If you haven't yet, head on over to the TLP shop. You can see in the bottom right corner we do have our IFT-3 collection available, as well as our Starship collection. That IFT-3 collection is limited edition and will only be available for a short time following the IFT-3 flight, so make sure you get an order in for that here today. As I said, if you guys have questions, you can send those in the chat by tagging us at the Launchpad, and we'll work on answering those live as we continue to watch as SpaceX stacks Starship onto the booster. It's moving quite quickly here compared to some of the previous stackings that we've seen. They're really moving along at a rate. Every time they're stacking these, they're getting just faster and faster as they know their system. You can see that the quick disconnect arm was retracted away prior to the lift. And now that Starship is almost up at the top, they will begin to start to swing the Starship on those chopsticks over the top of the booster. The pad area has been cleared during this operation, of course, just to make sure that safety is of course monitored. You can see Starship now officially higher than the booster. Just catching up on the chat. Some people, if with their questions. Aiden is asking, what time's the launch? We are 3 days, 21 hours, 11 minutes, 45 seconds. SpaceX is targeting a morning launch, and we do have our stream pre-scheduled for that. They are targeting a launch time. We're playing with time changes, so let me make sure we get this right. Of 7 a.m. local time, I believe is what it is. It's either 7 or 8 a.m. Starbase time. So either 8 or 9 a.m. Eastern time. I'll double check that for you in just a moment. Gotta love the daylight savings changes that some of the world went through last night. If you didn't remember, we've lost an hour today. If you're over in the UK and some other countries, you haven't done it yet. But we do have that launch pre-scheduled, and we'll be going live hours before to bring you full coverage of propellant loading onto the booster. You can see the quick disconnect arm is now swinging back into place on the booster. This does happen prior to the ship being brought fully back over. We do expect over the next couple of days to see the pad really cleaned up. A lot of the extra stuff moved away. Big question is, will they remove S-29 from the test stand B, in preparation for flight? Or are they going to leave it there for some really awesome pictures of a launch happening, but risk a ship being that close? With the crane still out at the site, we kind of suspect that they're going to remove it, but we'll have to wait and see over the next 3 days what we can expect. Noah Davidson, will you guys be tuning in for the Crew 7 farewell at 10:05 Eastern? Yes, we are monitoring that and expecting that farewell and handover of command on the International Space Station to happen this morning. We're keeping an eye on the time that they're expecting to do that, and we'll be taking that live as such. As we eagerly await Crew 7's return to Earth, which will begin tomorrow with hatch closure very early in the morning, and then about a day and a half journey back home, and we'll be covering that full with our live tracker, as well as undocking, hatch closure and undocking coverage, and then re-entry and splashdown coverage. So we hope you'll join us back here for that. Thanks for sending that in, Noah. Appreciate the question. If you guys have questions, you can keep sending those in the chat. If you haven't yet, also take a moment, engage the like button, share out the stream, invite people to join us. No, this is a bit new for our channel, being live for the Starship coverage, but we're super excited to start doing this on a regular basis, bringing you Starship updates, stacking, unstackings, rollouts, and everything in between. And then, of course, some incredible launch day coverage. It won't be just me on launch day. We are working and having a couple of our other team join me for commentary, so make sure you stay tuned for that. If you're interested in joining the TLP crew, though, we'll drop a link in the chat for our applications. We are looking at bringing on not only some more moderators, but we are officially opening for the first time ever commentator positions. Those commentator positions are a mix of for Starbase, but also for launch coverage, all depending on what your expertise and enjoyment is. So make sure you take a moment, check those out. A bunch of new positions that are open for the very first time. We are a volunteer team, but we are super excited to welcome a number of people on board that are passionate and excited to inform and inspire that next generation of explorers. And as we say, space is better together, so we'd love to have some more of you join on our team. We'll drop that link in the chat here shortly, and you can also join us over on our Discord. Everyone's welcome for that. It's free to join. That's where our community hangs out in between Starship events and live launch coverage. Xi Jinping, hey Zach, why are they stacking now? They're ready. So Starships have flight termination installed, so at this point there's no need for the ship to sit on the ground. We have been monitoring the weather internally, and it does look like they may have some rain and stuff coming, and possibly winds this week. So it is one of the thoughts of they might be stacking now because they're not sure if they're going to be able to stack with any winds over the next couple of days. But if they're stacked, they can try to thread the needle for a launch. But if they haven't been stacked, they can't lift. So there's different parameters for wind and rain and stuff on lifting and stacking and launching. So I'm thinking that's probably it. If they're ready, why not stack it? It's going to still be in the chopsticks. They're not going to freestand it, I wouldn't expect, until night before that morning. So we'll definitely be keeping a close eye on that. Thanks for sending that in. If you guys have questions, you can keep sending those in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad. I'll work on answering those live. Joel, when is launch? 3 days, 21 hours, 6 minutes, 35 seconds. Glenn, is there a launch window? There is, and let me work on confirming that. It's a couple of hours long. We did see the FAA also publish yesterday backup windows for 3 or 4 of the days following the current launch target of March 14th. So they do have those backups, but we'll be keeping a close eye on the weather down at Starbase as we continue. The window is 1200 Zulu to 1431 Zulu for that launch time. So they have a 2 hour and 31 minute window on the 14th, and they have the exact same launch window on the 15th, 16th, let's see here, 15th to 18th, excuse me. 15, 16, 17, and 18. So they have 4 backup days already scheduled with the FAA. Work and see if we can get the color a little nicer looking on the screen here. Is a little bit of a gray day down at Starbase, but that does help us have a much clearer view, which we always appreciate to have. If you're just joining us, you're looking at a live view of Starbase, Texas, where SpaceX is in the midst of what we believe to be probably the final stack ahead of the 3rd flight test of the Starship Super Heavy launch system. Hey Ian, no worries. So did I. Literally just got down here and got live, and right as we were programming it, because we were expecting it to happen today, they started lifting, and they started moving very quickly. As we've only been live, not even 15 minutes, and the booster's already up in the air, and we'll be lowering onto the booster here shortly. So they're definitely moving faster and faster each time. Catching up on the chat. Aiden, did they remove the scaffolding? No, there is still a little bit of scaffolding around the base of the booster. So they do still need to remove that prior to flight. But that only would take, with the SpaceX, a couple of hours. We've seen them remove that before very, very quickly. And it does look like they leave it up as long as they need to be, or as long as they can, to be able to have that a safety net on the pad while they are working. SpaceX does, generally speaking, try to put safety first for their team, which of course is paramount. You can see there the ship is now being swung into place. You can very more clearly see the silver front side where the Starship name and the Starlink paneling at the top of the ship is visible. As weather holds, this gives us a really beautiful view of what we can expect to have for a launch view on the 14th. Ship being raised just a little bit more. Make sure it's clearing the top of the booster. We'll keep a close eye to watch for that to be lowered down onto the top, which should be happening momentarily. Is the quick disconnect scaffolding removed? Well, once we have a full stack there, we can take a really close zoom in onto the quick disconnect and make double check on that. I haven't zoomed in on there in a couple of days. It's been a bit foggy, so we can take a close eye on that shortly. And the ship has started to be lowered onto the top of booster 10, meaning we are imminently awaiting a full stack at Starship, Texas. Jim, thank you so much for becoming a suborbital explorer. We appreciate your support. If you guys want to be like Jim and help support our cause and our mission, you can hit that join button down below. Starts at 99 cents a month to $1.99 to get you some membership coverage, as well as that extends to going behind the scenes with other membership levels. So definitely take a moment and check those out. It all goes into upgrading equipment to bring you better views like this around the world. We've got a ton of projects active for this year, and we can't wait to get to share more of those with you in the very near future. If you guys have questions, you can keep sending those in the chat by tagging us at the Launchpad. We'll work on answering those live. If you're just joining us, you are looking at a live view of SpaceX slowly lowering Starship onto the top of Booster 10 in preparation for IFT-3, which is currently 3 days, 20 hours, 59 minutes, 33 seconds, and counting away. We do expect this to be the final stack of the ship, dependent on if they see anything. I think that's another thing someone asked earlier, why stacking today. It's a good chance to stack it now to make sure that they are ready. Why wait till last minute and then have some issue that you need to destack and restack? Stack it now, make sure everything's good to go, and then basically wait for your launch date. This is still a test vehicle. That's super important. That's why it's called IFT-3 or FT-3. It is a test flight. They are still learning this system. The ship is always changing. The booster is always changing in between these flights. Number of changes have been made. I think it was 14 corrective actions had to be required by the FAA after Flight Test 2. Those, of course, were completed long ago by SpaceX, ready for this flight, which is why this ship and booster are ready here. Elon has said if everything goes well, we expect the next test flight or next flight of Starship to be very quick. From the people we've talked to and in our team, we're thinking if everything goes really well, we could see that within 30 to 60 days of this flight, if they are able to prove out a lot of the demonstrations they're going to try to do on this flight. This flight a little bit different. They're not heading to Hawaii with an orbital-ish flight. They're definitely not going for orbit. They are going to do a payload door demonstration. They will open that for about 20 minutes of the flight. They're going to do a propellant transfer demonstration while in zero gravity, and they're also going to do a engine relight demonstration. So 3 demos that have never been done before, on top of trying to demonstrate Starship re-entry. Now, the booster will boost back burn and come for a soft water landing in the Gulf of Mexico. The ship is going to continue on its way around, but it's actually going to come down in the Indian Ocean. Now, they're not going to attempt to do the flip maneuver to soft land the ship in the water. They are just going to belly flop it in. But they are going to try to get all that way through re-entry to prove that Starship can do it, which would be an incredible demonstration of the heat tiles and the Starship system being able to re-enter for the very first time. So in the chat, we want to hear from you. How far do you think this mission's going to go? Do you think we're going to see ship splash down in the Indian Ocean and booster soft splash in the Gulf? Do you think we're going to see another RUD at some point? Or do you think we might just see the dreaded S word, and they're not actually going to launch in 3 days, 20 hours. Take a moment, let us know in the chat. While you do, you can keep sending in those questions, taking us at the launch pad. We'll work on answering those. You can see very little bit of sky in between the ship and the booster as SpaceX prepares to full stack Starship ahead of IFT-3. Titus, yes, FTS has been installed. And I know I'm going to say your name wrong, and I apologize that, but Compot, I watched Starship evolving since I was 9 years old when it was BFR. That time, I'm 14, but love to see Starship getting real and actually flying. My little self would be happy. That is awesome. Thanks so much for being here. We appreciate it. L Detective wasn't Starship wet tested yesterday. It was a few days ago they did the wet dress rehearsal. But yes, they loaded Starship within basically the same amount of time it takes them to fuel a Falcon 9. But Starship holds 10 times the propellant as Falcon 9. So a incredible demonstration of the system there. Wing soon, marvelous test plans planned. This one is going all the way, all things tested as planned. I hope so. Aiden thinks ship splashdown. That's what we hope to see. Phone alarm. That was the reminder to make sure we were ready for the change of command ceremony, which is coming up on the International Space Station in about 15 minutes' time. We will be going live for that as well, but we will be staying live with this view of Starbase, Texas, where SpaceX is currently stacking Starship onto the Super Heavy booster in preparation for flight. Even when we end our commentary coverage, we have two streams running for this stacking right now. We have our Starship IFT-3 stacking stream, which many of you are joining us on, but we do have our live Starship IFT-3 countdown to launch stream running, which will not go offline when we finish commentary of stacking here. So if you want to keep an eye on this view and keep the Flight 3 status board on your screen for the next 3, almost 4 days as we count down to launch, you are able to do so. This is our own TLP 24/7 countdown to launch camera, and we're excited to have many of you joining us here. We'll take a zoom in on the quick disconnect in just a little bit here. I know some people asking for that. We are able to move this camera around and take a look at what you guys want to see, but we'll wait till we have that full stack confirmation. Nate, when do you predict IFT-4 will be happening? My guess would be end of April, beginning of May. I think that's a really good guess if things go well. It all depends on what type of investigations that they have to do on the following the flight. So that really is all dependent on how Flight 3 goes. But Elon has said the next ship is basically ready. So if everything goes well, then I would say we could see that within 30 to 60 days for sure. SpaceX did request from the FAA an upgrade from 5 flights allowed per year to 9. That is a big change, which would basically, at this point, allow us 1 launch per month for the rest of the year, which would absolutely be incredible to see. They also are preparing to stack their second tower and start building that down at Starbase, Texas, and we will be bringing you full coverage of those not only ship rollouts, but tower segment rollouts later this year when that ultimately does begin. Nate says, let's hope for April 26th since it's my birthday. I mean, we all know it's we all know it's Elon and SpaceX. The numbers are everything. So maybe we'll see a repeat of that 420 launch if things go really well. That gives them about a month and a few days. So it's possible. Millen Preet, how many launches will happen before a successful landing on Mars? Ooh, that's a big question. I think it depends how quickly they try to get one out there. Do they try to go for the next Martian window, which would be 2020? late 25. Let me check when that next window is exactly. The next window, late 2026. So they've got just over 2 years to be ready. So I think it would be highly likely that the next Mars window opens and we see some starships going. Whether they're carrying specifically missions of cargo, or it's, hey, we're launching to Mars, let's send stuff anyways, just in case we do land successfully. That I think is more likely. But I would be surprised if SpaceX isn't targeting those first Starship flights to Mars for late 2026. At the rate they're going, I think it's definitely possible. Keep in mind, 4 years ago, none of this existed. That's what's truly incredible about all this. It's been 2 years since that successful launch and landing of a Starship. It's been rather slow since, with really only 2 flights. You know, we had over a year of no flight. But a lot of testing, a lot of proving of these vehicles. And we're now entering this kind of second wave of testing. And that's going to get really exciting very, very quickly here. You can see the ship being lowered ever so slowly onto the top of the booster. Does look to be now lined up and in position, ready for the final lowering to create a full stack. David, any word on a payload simulant to avoid that O2 leak that blew up on IFT-2? We haven't heard anything. SpaceX kind of taking a book out of Blue Origin and staying a little bit quiet on some things. But we do expect that there is something. We do know that they're opening the payload door for a demonstration as well. So we'll keep an eye on that as well. Zach, you sound sleepy. We just woke up very quickly for this, so we're glad to be here. Based on their last stackings, we expected this to be maybe tomorrow. I wait for like the launch license and then stack. If everything follows the same plan as what happened with Flight Test 2, we would expect the FAA launch license to be dropped sometime tomorrow, if not the next day, but sometime tomorrow. But, of course, this is a different flight. It is a weekend, so we'll wait to see what happens with the FAA. Nate, when do you think SpaceX will attempt to conduct the first human flight on Starship? When they're ready. I don't think SpaceX will take that lightly. I think one thing that will be different is this first test flight of humans on Starship will not be NASA astronauts. We do expect it to be Jared Isaacman and the Polaris program that will be flying on Starship for its first flight. Whether that's the first operational flight or first test flight, we're not too sure just yet. But of course, we'll have Dear Moon eventually. That may happen on Starship. But there's a lot of questions on what that all will look like and how quickly that will happen. I don't think that's this year. I think maybe by the end of next year they would want to try to. End of 2025 if we haven't seen people fly on it. But, I mean, just think how crazy that sounds. We want to fly people on this within the next 18 months or 24 months. In the normal grand scheme of testing launch vehicles and certifying them, that is very fast. But that's the speed SpaceX goes, but they won't do it until they know they're ready. I think we're going to see many, many, many flights prior to that. We're going to need to see many re-entries prior to that and landings. We're going to need to see them land the booster before that. We need to see them land the ship before that. We need to probably even see them reuse a ship possibly before that. So there is a lot of things that have to happen before we get to crewed flight. Ian, coffee fund for Zach, thank you so much. We will place a Starbucks order. I appreciate that. No, I'll probably just make one here, but I appreciate that super chat there. Thanks so much. Hellfire, is SpaceX planning to build their own space station someday? That's a really great question. Starship, the living area, the pressurized area of Starship in its current generation and iteration is the same size as nearly the livable space on the International Space Station, just in one ship. So one ship is equal to what we've been used to living in space for. So they don't really need to build a station because that's what each ship is in our current context. If we think long term, maybe. We have to keep in mind HLSs, the human landing systems for the moon, cannot ever come back to Earth. So eventually those will either be stuck in orbit somewhere, the moon or Earth, or be landed permanently on the moon. Which either way, amazing. We'll have a space station or a moon base with each one that gets retired basically from flying. But yeah, we could eventually see. We know starships are going to need to dock to each other for propellant transfers. So yeah, there's definitely a possibility you could dock some, one or two together. I guess you could maybe dock it if you thought about it later. You could make a docking adapter that maybe you could link like 4 together or something. But I'm not too sure. I think they might run a similar model to Starlab, which will be launched on starships. Star Labs are kind of like the almost Uber of space stations. They're a smaller capsule, but it's something that you can kind of rent your space when you need it and be able to go visit it with Crew Dragon. But maybe Starship will run a similar model where, we have a few starships permanently in orbit that you could fly up a Dragon or another Starship to, dock and transfer to. But with the reusability of Starship, they'll probably just give you one from the ground and you'll launch with your own temporary station. Starship really opens a whole new realm of possibility for what low Earth orbit and lunar orbit looks like, and eventually Martian. And we still have just a tiny crevice of daylight passing through between the ship and the booster. But the quick disconnect rotated back into place here as they prepare to lower the ship on. If you're just joining us, welcome here. You're looking at a live view of Starbase, Texas, where SpaceX is currently stacking Starship onto Booster 10 in preparation for flight. They are targeting March 14th for Flight 3, but they are still awaiting that FAA launch license. The other things that have not been issued yet is the flight restrictions in the United States. That has not been issued. And the evacuation zone notice in the USA has not been issued either. Those are the last two things we're really waiting for. Everything else has been issued and is just not active. We do have a flight restriction for Mexico. We do have the marine hazard zone for the United States into the Gulf of Mexico's international waters. We do also, and I'll probably add it to our board, we did receive a marine hazard issue for the Indian Ocean. So that is now in place as well. And a row closure has been scheduled, and the FAA schedule has been issued, but we do not have a launch license. Pad status will stay active crew till launch day when they clear out the pad in that morning. If you guys have questions, you can keep sending those in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad. We'll work on answering those live. You are looking at our very own TLP camera down at Starbase, Texas, looking at the almost full stack of Starship Super Heavy in preparation for Flight 3. If you're interested in joining our team as possibly a Starbase commentator, a live launch coverage commentator, a moderator, or a TLP journalist or more, definitely take a moment to check out the application link in the chat box. Those applications are now open. Some positions we've never opened before. We'd invite some of you to apply to, and we'd be excited to welcome some more of you onto the TLP crew. Anthony, thank you so much for sending that in. Would checking out a couple of V3 Starlinks or something they could do just to test the door, or would that be against the FAA license? Ooh, that's a really good question. Thank you so much for sending that in. I was thinking about that. If they're going to open the payload door, and it's going to be open for like 20-25 minutes, we do know that they're going to try to do the propellant transfer demo during that time, so that's probably going to take a bit of that time. But what's not saying they don't just shoot out one Starlink? It would be a V2, not a V3. We're on V2 minis on Falcon 9 and V2s for Starship. For now, we'll get to V3s. They're probably already designing it. But that's a really interesting concept. Well, would they not use that opportunity? I mean, it'd be basically throwing money away because it wouldn't be in orbit. But could they eject demo one V2, even bus, not even a full satellite, just the bus of it? Maybe. We'll have to wait and see what happens. That's a really interesting idea. I haven't ever heard anyone guess about that. We don't know if there's anything on board, but the fact that they've confirmed they're going to open and close that Pez dispenser door is really exciting. We've got just a few feet remaining for the ship to be on top of the booster. Thanks for sending that in. Keep sending in those questions in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad. We'll work on answering those live. Anthony, thank you so much. Another super chat there. Is the suborbital path beyond the ability of the Starlinks to raise their orbits with onboard fuel? I would believe so. I don't think you use a lot of speed just to get into a stable low Earth orbit, and Indian Ocean is probably shy of more than a third of the way around, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it would take a lot of propellant for it. So unless Starship has a very high ejection rate, I don't believe they'd be able to eject in the right direction into a stable orbit. I can be wrong. I will say that first and foremost. I'll always say if I don't know something or if I can be wrong on it. But I don't believe that would be possible. But we'll keep an eye on it and see what happens. We'll know in 3 days, 20 hours. And that's about 22 minutes into flight. So 3 days, 21 hours, and about 3 minutes. We'll know what's going to happen if they get off the ground. Thank you so much for sending that in. Anthony, what are the speeds? 27,000 for orbital. Yeah, it's right around there. And then, yeah, 22,000 or so for suborbital. So it's not a lot, but it is quite a lot when you think about these thin satellites needing to do that. They have their thrusters to be able just to maneuver their orbital position, but nowhere it means the thrusters to actually do that large of an inclination or an altitude change, per se. William, will there be anyone around to video the landing of either the booster or the Starship? The booster, if weather is good, should actually be visible from South Padre, just on the horizon, but theoretically should be visible coming down on the horizon there. Starship is the middle of the Indian Ocean. We don't exactly know, and it has a large re-entry area, so there will be no one in that re-entry zone. Maybe on the sides of it, but no one in the re-entry zone because we don't want to risk them getting hit by debris if Starship does not re-enter well. Ian, even with Starship potentially landing in the Indian Ocean, will they be recovering S-28 if it's in pieces? I feel like there is a heavy risk of other countries going for its hardware. There was no plans to do such when they were landing in Hawaii. So we haven't heard any plans or seen anything preparing to do such in the Indian Ocean, and those ships would have basically almost already had to have been out to sea to get to that region in the Indian Ocean. They'd have to leave in the next day or so. So I would not expect anything. I think if anything, they will be able to just purge the tanks, which will sink the ship, and then it becomes one of those kind of finders keepers rules that if you can go down and pull it up, good on you. You can have it. Anthony, good to see you here. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. If you're just joining us, you can keep sending in those questions in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad. We'll work on answering those. Dundagda? I'm sorry if I said that wrong. Is there any way to zoom in, see the camera, see if it's closing? Let's give it a try. Why not? This is new for us. So bear with me 1 minute as we move the camera and see if we're able to see that separation point there. Maybe just activate the FTS. Not the worst idea I've heard. I mean, theoretically, that's basically how they submerge, old ships to make artificial reefs, so not the absolute worst idea I've ever heard. If you're just joining us, welcome. You're looking at a live view of Starship's orbital launch facility, where SpaceX is preparing to finish stacking Starship. We're going to attempt to punch in the camera here to see if we can see. We haven't done this before. We are shooting a number of miles, so bear with me. If we don't like it, we'll zoom back out. Move it a little to the side there. Get that back in the view. There we go. There is a punched in view there. Absolutely great shot being able to see the stacking there. You can see that quick disconnect, and there's some people asking if the scaffolding had all been removed there. Looks like there might be a little bit of scaffolding left on the quick disconnect, but not a ton. If you're just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad. You're looking at a punched in view now of Starship as we wait to see that final lowering onto the booster. We've sat here for a little bit of time. The last few feet to go. Tubby, we have the technology. That we do. Kelly, how far away is that camera? We are shooting 5.5 miles with this camera. So, this is a, you can see the shaking there a little bit more clearly with the wind, obviously because we're punched in so much further. This shot here is equal to some of the shots we've seen with Dune cameras even for it, and we're shooting a lot further than those. So, super excited to be able to bring this to you in the near future. Anthony, wow, thank you so much. That is so generous. Thought I was watching an NSF feed. You are moving up, but on that note, I think you need some loving. You're very responsive, which is nice. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for that generous support. That'll go into bringing more cameras online. We've got lots of plans, not only down at Starbase, but some other places. And one thing we are excited to say, and we were going to keep it under wraps until IFT-3 was done, but you know what? There's a bunch of you here. Why not? Let's say it early. This camera's not going anywhere. This camera is 24/7. It's staying live, and it's not going to go anywhere after IFT-3. We're super excited about that. This is 24/7 Starbase live coverage on the launch pad, and that's only because of your guys' support. And this is only the first camera of many. One of the cameras we are working on, which we're super excited about, will have some interesting member perks. That's all we're going to say for now. If some of you were in the stream when we first launched this very quickly, you have an idea what we mean. But keep an eye out for that in the coming weeks, members. Certain membership tiers are going to have some really interesting capabilities. But we're super excited, and that is only because of your guys' support. This is something we've dreamed of for over 3 years. We've worked to make happen. We're super excited to have welcomed some new people onto our team, including John, and because of him and your guys' support, we're able to pull some strings and make things like this happen, and work on some other projects as well. So stay tuned. Lots of exciting things coming over the course of this year. So thank you so much. If you're just joining us, though, you're looking at a live view. Starship almost on top of Super Heavy Booster, which is super exciting as we count down now just under 4 days away from the third integrated flight test of Starship. You can keep sending in those questions in the chat. We work on answering all of the questions. If you tag us, just make sure you're doing that tag at the launch pad. If you don't tag us, we'll still try to catch your questions in the chat as well. But if you want to jump the queue and be next, you can send it as a super chat. That's how we'll run that here. That's how we run it on every stream. Launch day coverage, our future Starbase coverage. That's how we do it. We still try to answer everyone's questions because we do believe that space is better together. Jeffrey, my favorite channel to watch. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Tom Kirkman. So is this a stack with or without the flight termination installed? It is installed. So the flight termination is on the ship and the booster. So we do not expect another D-stack ahead of flight. They are able to arm the rest of it while it is fully stacked. So we'll keep an eye on that. Ooh, Millen Preet is asking, what are the differences between Starship V1 and V2? I think the easiest way, and it's not saying it in a jokingly way, what's the difference between a smart car and a school bus? I think Elon has said there has been thousands of little changes from the first starships that we saw doing hops to what we see now to what will ultimately be the final first variants that are flight operational. And then we'll see future variants as well. There has been tons of little changes from just how they do their welding of each segment to how they attach their starship tiles. We've seen change to the downpipe rings in it, to the grid fins, the hot fire ring that you can see there on your screen now. That didn't exist on the first flight. So many things that they have learned from their operations along their journey to these integrated flight tests. And because of that, we see the starship that we see here today. And that is something that they will continue to evolve. And I don't think we will ever, for a number of years, see a finished starship. Even Falcon 9 to this day, the engines are still evolving, which is why they're carrying more payloads, doing more boost back and landing burns back to landing zone. It's always evolving, and that's how SpaceX operates. So truly is incredible to see what they do. So we'll have to wait and see, but a lot of options. I don't have this technical specification list, and I don't even want to guess because I'll get one of them wrong for sure. But thousands of differences between the two. And then there was 14 corrective actions they had to do between Flight Test 2 and Flight Test 3. Some of those were more generic, and some were very specific on what they had to do. So SpaceX has done those as well. Pop Trepica, how soon after the FAA issues the launch license can Starship launch? I mean, theoretically, as quickly as they can clear the pad and fuel it. But we expect the license will possibly be issued tomorrow. That would follow the same timeline of Flight Test 2, where we did have it about 3 days before. So if tomorrow comes, we get the flight test, they're still targeting the 14th. They're not going to move that early. They can't, but they could push later if there's, for some reason, they need to. We are keeping a close eye on weather as well. SpaceX does NASA things better than NASA does. I think we're entering a really exciting era where NASA gets to do what they do so best, and that's the science. NASA is unbeatable with Hubble, James Webb, some of the other sciences that they're doing, the next generation after James Webb that they're already designing. That stuff, NASA has always done incredibly well at science with JPL. I mean, look at our Mars rovers. They're supposed to go for 6 or 8 weeks, and here we are years, if not decade plus later, and they're still operational. They do that so well. Let's focus on that. Let's get NASA doing the science, and let's get other people running the buses and the planes to get NASA there. Just like thinking about flying. We don't all own our own airline. We buy tickets on airlines that operate their own planes, who buy planes from providers. Now, I don't think we're ever going to see airlines, book a Starship flight on your favorite airline and get your loyalty points with your specific airline. We'll have to wait and see. I might be wrong. But, Starship will eventually, hopefully, operate point to point. And it'll be one of those things that they are the transport option. And they will get anyone who wants to go somewhere there. And that's because that's what they do well. Just like Well, not Boeing, but just like Airbus does. Airbus builds their planes and sells it to airline companies to operate, but they're the builders. So we'll have to wait and see what the future of Starship looks like. But it is definitely a bright future. Ian, thank you so much for your super chat. It's been an honor to witness TLP grow into what it is today. The response time with the team and the loyalty that this community has is amazing. TLP definitely deserves the love. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. That's so generous. You guys are amazing. This started as a side little hobby project and has turned into my dream career, and we are so excited to be growing our crew. On that note, applications are open if you want to join it. We'll drop the link in the chat if you guys want to send in those applications and join us. Not all positions are commentary positions. There's lots of things that happen behind the scenes that we'd love to invite you all onto. Join us as we continue to work to inform and inspire that next generation. We have so many things on the drawing board that we have to put projects on hold just because we don't have enough people. But that is because you guys equip us to do that. So thank you so much. Those super chats all go into covering expansions of operations, getting our team out. We have a number of our rocket chasers flying out from Florida to Starbase in the next couple of days to bring coverage from on the ground there. So lots of things are happening and growing, and that's because of you guys. So thank you so, so much. Catching up on the chat, you can keep sending in those questions. Verbena, this operation is incredible. Thank you. Appreciate that. Siri, what is the reason for not having a license? Mm-hmm. It. Oh, well, that was funny. Okay. No, stop talking. No, shush. Okay, we're gonna turn her off. That's funny. That's why your username's that name. Okay, so you're now anytime we say your name, it's just gonna be C. C. Why isn't the launch license been issued yet? It's just that's protocol. It just hasn't been just yet. The FAA is very close to finishing it. They've confirmed that, but we're waiting for them to fully finish and issue it here. Taking a look, it looks like that little bit of sky might be getting even smaller between the ship and the booster, which is a good sign that we might be moments away from stacking being complete here. We'll keep a close eye on that as it goes away. Just Yash, thank you so much for becoming a Lunar Explorer. I appreciate that. If you would like to become a member like Just, you can hit that join button down below. Starts at 99 cents, $2 a month. You get that awesome TLP helmet next to your name, and we really appreciate your guys' support in doing such. We do also have our Patreon as well. Millenpreet, will ship 28 perform the flip maneuver to reduce the speed, or will it just splat into the Indian Ocean? It does look like they're going to belly flop it all the way. They're just not going to do the flip at the bottom to brake. They're not going to reignite those engines and try to land softly. It's just going to belly flop all the way into the ocean. So SpaceX sets the new world's greatest belly flop record, hopefully in 3 days and about 21 hours. Helen Last, thank you so much for that €5 Euro super chat. I appreciate that. Thank you. It's great seeing you around. You've been here since the early days, so we appreciate that. I recognize many of the names in the chat, which is always really special. Pop Trepet, at what point will we no longer need a license for every launch? Never. We will always require an FAA launch license for everywhere in the world that they launch. So this is very similar to Rocket Lab. Rocket Lab is a U.S. company that operates out of New Zealand. It now does have a U.S. launch site. Even when they are in New Zealand and they're launching Electron, they require a New Zealand launch license and an FAA launch license because Rocket Lab is an American company. So no matter where in the world Starship launches, if it is under SpaceX, they will require an FAA launch license. And that will be permanent. Airlines, it's something we don't think about, but airlines all have flight licenses. The pilots have a license, but the vehicles also do too. They have to file their flight paths. That is their flight license. It's a slightly different, obviously, but it boils down to really identically the exact same thing. It always has to be tracked and approved. That's why, when a flight gets really delayed, they can't just take off even if the weather's better and they have a pilot. They have to file a new flight plan and get that approved. So is definitely something we will never see that happen. It does look like they're lowering very slowly onto the booster there. Couple more feet to go until we have contact of ship onto the booster. And as Opa says, FAA has a lot to do with international affairs, not just domestic. Yeah, it really depends on where the companies register. That was one of the big things with, well, why doesn't SpaceX just move out of the U.S.? Well, they're U.S. companies, so that doesn't change them needing the FAA, fortunately and unfortunately. William, will they send a mock Starship rocket to practice docking to for refueling? Yes. So we do expect to see that demonstration either late this year or early next year, where they'll have 2 Starships meet in orbit. Tom Kirkman, I don't get that. Why does the FAA have any sort of authority over companies operating outside the U.S.? Because they're a U.S. company, U.S. jurisdiction. Just like TLP, we are a Canadian incorporation, so we're a Canadian company, but we do operate around the world. Of course, we have to operate under the local, state, and federal laws of whatever country we're in, but we do also still have to operate under Canadian law, no matter what. So it is the same thing. Obviously, there's some laws that if you're in that other country, you follow that law, but our organizational laws, you have to follow based no matter where we are in the world. And that looks like we have had contact of Starship onto Booster 10. They are lowering it the final few inches, and then they will work to take the pressure off of the chopsticks, leaving the ship fully sat down onto the booster. If you're just joining us, though, welcome here to the launch pad and our live full stack coverage of Starship ahead of IFT-3. We have seen here just over the last few minutes that final bit of air close between the Starship and the booster as they have prepared for Flight Test 3 in just under 4 days from now. If you haven't yet, take a moment, engage that like button, share out the stream, invite people to join us. It really does help us out. A huge thank you to all of the super chats that have come in today. You guys have been so incredibly generous. We really do appreciate that. And for that, we want to catch up in the chat. Take a moment, let us know where you're watching from. We'll give some shout outs there. We are waiting for the ship quick disconnect to reattach there, but we do have contact of Starship onto Booster 10, and we are back in the status of having a full stack ship at Starbase, Texas. We'll take a moment, zoom back out, see a nice wide shot of the ship fully stacked down there. Take a moment while we move this camera here. A little bit wide view. It is a little bit of a grayer day down at Starbase, but that ultimately does help us to have a little bit of a nicer view down there. A little bit clearer of a view while we continue to count down to launch. You can see there just peeking in on the side of the screen. You also have Ship 29, which recently conducted boarded a spin prime test just a couple of days ago as well. If you guys have questions, you can keep sending those in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad. We'll work on answering those live. Lots of people tuning in. We've got Tornado Bot in Ohio, Just is in India, Tom's in Michigan, Millen Preet is India, Sharon is India. We've got Paul in Panama City, Florida. Freddie's in the Cape, Florida. Great to see you here. Lots of people tuning in all over the world, and we're glad to have you here. And Jessica Starr, not as gray as the other day was, and that is very true. It is not just a gray box on our screens here today. We do have that nice normal-ish looking view at Starbase with the fog having cleared out. Some of the weather patterns have changed, which is ultimately given us this much better view of the Starbase operations, just in time to get into these final days of counting down to Flight Test 3. Sean's in PEI Canada. Great to see another Canadian, as well as Nomad in Vancouver. We've got Helen in the UK. David's in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Darren is in Abu Dhabi in the UAE. Welcome. Thanks for being here. Owen Space, when catch? That is a very big question for it. I'd be surprised if we don't see something this year that they attempt, but that all depends how these next flight tests go. So, great question. Keep sending those in by tagging us at the launch pad. Jeffrey, someone may have answered, but how far? We are shooting just over 5 miles here with our camera. First of many that we're working on. We are working to do some closer ones as well, thanks to your guys' support, so stay tuned for that as well. We do have a couple of our rocket chasers flying out from Florida to cover launch, so we'll be getting some roadside photos and videos over the next few days, so make sure you stay tuned to our social media for that. You can follow us on X at TLPN_official, or on Facebook or Instagram, the Launchpad Network. We also have our TLP Discord. It's free to join. That's where our community hangs out in between broadcasts, and we'd love to see you in there. The link for that is in the chat. We also have that link in the chat if you are interested in applying to join the TLP crew. And we'd love to welcome some more of you onto the TLP crew. Joe Dog, great shot, Zach. Appreciate that. Jeffrey, I would so love to visit there and see it in person. For now, it's the Launchpad and Google Maps. Well, I hope you can get out there one day, Jeffrey. It is a really incredible place. I've been incredibly lucky enough to be down there 3 times now. I was down in September 2021 just for a visit when Booster 4 was going on and off the pad. We were down there for the Starship update in February 2022 with Elon, which was an incredible honor to be invited to that, and to be literally standing basically where the crane is where we were standing for the Starship update. So it was really incredible to stand and get to do that booster kind of look back up at Starship of a vehicle that hopefully one day we'll get to ride on. And then, of course, I was down there for IFT-1. So excited to get back down there again later this year, do some roadside coverage and stuff. But for now, we're hopping around the world with a number of different places we're going to be visiting this year. But we are getting some of our rocket chasers down there in Florida as well. Unfortunately, we only have one Zach, and Zach can't be everywhere at once while running everything. So we're excited to have more people on our team. If you happen to live in Starbase on the Space Coast or around another launch facility, make sure you head over to that application and fill out the rocket chaser part of it. We would love to invite you to join us on the TLP crew to help get some more coverage of other launch facilities around the world. Millenpreet, many in the near future. Yes, nine flights is what SpaceX has requested from the FAA this year. That doesn't mean they would ultimately use all of those, but it is something that they have requested. We are keeping an eye on the alignment of Starship. It does look like they need to turn the ship ever so slightly to finish some of the alignment of some of the pipes on the ship. So we'll be keeping an eye on this and staying live until we have confirmation that stack is complete. You can keep sending those questions in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad. Yeah, that's a good idea, C. I'll just become Doctor Strange. That'll work. Well, I mean, if point-to-point works on Starship, I mean, theoretically, one day, I could just hop around like that. Catching up on the chat and the questions you guys are sending. Justin, thank you so much for being a member for 21 months. We appreciate your support. Gitesh, when will they do demo launch before the orbital flight? Well, we have another launch of Starship in 3 days, 21 hours, or 20 hours, 12 minutes and 10 seconds. That's going to be the third flight test. Joe Dog, are the boom boxes installed on the ship and booster? Yes, they are. The boom box has been installed but not activated, so no boom yet. But they are ready to go for flight test 3. I like the sound of that, boom boxes. A little more exciting than FTS. Should we start calling it that, chat? Boom boxes? What do you think? Stephen Myers, happy birthday. Thank you so much for watching and making us part of your birthday. I appreciate that. Hope you have a great day. You got a full stack for your birthday. I mean, that sounds pretty great to me. Need a TLP private plane. Pop Chaptica, do we know anything about the time of day for the launch? So it'll be an early morning flight that they are targeting for. Let me confirm the launch time there. The countdown is in the top right corner of your screen. SpaceX, though, will be... Let me just confirm this here. So I say the exact right time because I don't want to say it wrong. I believe it's 7 a.m. that they are targeting local time, so 8 a.m. Eastern. I need to double check that. We gotta love these time changes, right? Where the clock changes and you're like, did someone know that it changed? Did they not? Always a fun time having the clock changes. Jessica, if we pool our money together and get Zach a private jet, would TLP technically be becoming a mega church? Well, I did work in a church for 13 years prior to doing TLP. I mean, I have some of the qualifications, I guess. That's great, Jessica. Very nice. Millen Pre, yeah, boom boxes is good than FTS. Make it go boom with the boom boxes. There we go. So do we need a boom box shirt? Is that what I'm hearing? Like, bring on the boom boxes? Okay, that's coming to the shop later today. Keep an eye out for it. Bring on the boom boxes. It's going to be an IFT-3 shirt. If you guys haven't yet, though, take a moment. Head over to the Launchpad store. You can check out our IFT-3 collection as we continue to count down to launch of IFT-3. We do have a few limited edition products on the shop for IFT-3 with our TLP IFT-3 patch. Those will be available for a very short time after the launch, so make sure that you stay tuned for, make sure you grab those before they are gone forever. Catching up on the chat. You can keep sending in those questions. We are getting ready for live coverage of the change of command ceremony and the farewell remarks at the International Space Station as well. So we hope you'll join us on that other stream, but we'll be staying live here as well. Our ISS 24/7 stream will be coming back online later today as well, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Lots of things happening here today, as it is also a double launch day. We have SpaceX launching 2 Falcon 9s today, targeting 7:05 p.m. Eastern and 10:13 p.m. Eastern. If you guys have questions, you can keep sending those in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad. We work on answering those. If you want to be the next question, you can jump the queue, though, and send it in as a super chat, but that is never required, but greatly appreciated. We are watching the quick disconnect approach the vehicle. I think we'll zoom back in here for the next little bit. Take a closer look onto the quick disconnect as it approaches. There we go. You can see that view there. It should focus up in just a moment as well. And our live ISS change of command ceremony broadcast is now live. That was something you were wanting to follow along with, but we'll be staying live here with the Starbase views, keeping an eye as we wait for them to finalize the stack by putting the quick disconnect fully into place. And it does look like they have begun lifting Starship again. Starship is now being lifted back up into the air for an adjustment. We'll see how high they lift it, but it is ever so slightly above the booster here again. Gatish, do you think that the docking mechanism of the Starship is a little weird? Like when they're docking, they'll be pointing engine to another ship when they're docking hatch. We don't fully know for sure how they're going to dock just yet. They've got some simulated ideas, but I think SpaceX knows what they're doing. And they'll do some testing to make sure that they know what they're doing. So we'll keep an eye on it as they continue to design and evolve that program. Jessica, I'm staying where the commentary is. I appreciate it, Jessica. Catching up on the chat here. Ted, the forecast looks like clouds. Yeah, we've been keeping an eye on it. There is some risk of rain all week here, so we hope that that pushes back. Get a boombox, definitely awesome. Well, boombox will come with there'll be a boombox shirt a little bit later today, maybe a sticker as well. Steve Myers, Launchpad, I have a question for you. Do you think that it will rud? I hope not. I really do hope it doesn't. We would love to see a successful flight of Starship. We need that, but it is a possibility. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. Elon has 2K hours in KSP. I trust him. I mean, that sounds pretty sound to me. Ivan, do you live in the area? You're down at Starbase. That's awesome. Hope you enjoy the view when it launches. If you guys have questions, you can keep sending those in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad, and we'll work on answering those live as we continue through the broadcast. Also, if you're just joining us, though, you're looking at a live view where SpaceX is currently in the midst of full stacking Starship. This is our very own TLP camera staying live 24/7 as we count down to launch. Does look like they're just ever so slightly rotating the ship. Just a couple of degrees to make sure everything is lined up. Julian, are moderators able to control the camera once you've left the live? They will be. Not all moderators, but we will have some people that will be able to control it for it. We are keeping a few things just as we're testing lockdown because we want to make sure everything works to for IFT-3. So, but we are testing some other systems that we'll be bringing online just after IFT-3 that will give a little bit more control so that if I'm not awake, we can move it around and take a look at what needs to happen. We're also expanding that commentary team. So if I'm not awake, we will still have other commentators that can jump on for things like rollouts and stackings and all of that at absolutely crazy hours. But bear with us as we work on expanding that team over the coming weeks and do some training. Tom Kirkman, when do you think SpaceX will manage to land Starship from orbit? They've gotten real good at it with Falcon. I think this year. I really believe we'll see a Starship land this year. Carl, hello from Greenland. Is there going to be payloads on this test flight? We haven't been told of any, and it's not going to orbit, so it wouldn't be able to deploy anything, and then it's splashing into the ocean. So any payload would be lost, but we do believe there's probably some sort of mass simulator or something on board. And they're doing a payload door demo, so knowing SpaceX, I kind of be surprised if they don't shoot out like just the bus of one of their new Starlinks just to prove that it works. But that only works if it has the mechanism installed, and I don't know if we know that for certain is installed. Ian, man, I love how many streams there are going to be today. Couldn't ask for a better Sunday. Love hanging out with my favorite people. We appreciate that, Ian. We'll catch you in the Discord, and hopefully more of you later today throughout it. It's a busy day. Starship full stack, ISS command change ceremony, as well as Crew 7 farewell. Our ISS 24/7 cameras coming back online, and we have 2 SpaceX Falcon 9 launches. And it's a Sunday. So it's we are entering a new era, people, or we're in a new era of really amazing exploration happening. Again, SpaceX will have 3 fully stacked rockets on 3 of their 4 pads today. So exciting to be there. Millenpreet, will there be a commercial flight available for us to go on to Mars? One day, definitely one day. Starship has been lowered back down onto the booster. We'll wait to see if they do any more adjustments or if this is set. We'll keep an eye on that quick disconnect arm. That's going to be a good sign for it. But yeah, hopefully one day, Milpreet, definitely. Tubby, last ever Delta Heavy this week. We don't have a set launch date just yet for it, but they were targeting this month. So we are keeping a close eye on that. We do know that the last Delta for Heavy, which will fly NROL 70, is stacked in at Slick 41 for United Launch Alliance. But it is something that they will get a launch date for in advance. So we are keeping an eye on that. It lowered down a bit, but it's still misaligned. It looks, yeah, just ever so slightly. You can kind of see on the booster and on the ship those 2 lines right by the grid fin and the flap. Those should almost be straight up and down, and right now they're not. So we are keeping an eye on that. Knock it offer. Do you know what the Q means when they say max Q? I know what the phrase means, but where did the Q come from? That's a great question. Let me double check that. I think the Q is just a short form for it. I don't know if it necessarily okay, it comes down to the formula. So dynamic pressure is generally shortened to Q in a formula. So that's where that comes from. So it's max Q or maximum dynamic pressure. That's where it comes from. We learn something new every day. Thanks for sending that in. I appreciate that question. I learned that as well. Alessandro, did SpaceX fix the fuel channels to stop them rupturing during the booster flip? Are you confident it will work this time? I'm 50-50. I think we'll see what happens. Starship is going back up again. Just ever so slightly. We're seeing just that little tiny darkness crease appear between the ship and the booster as they work to align them perfectly. But for that question, Alessandro, they've done a lot of changes. They had 14 or 16 corrective actions the FAA required, and we'll have to see how that continues. But they had made those changes before the FAA even had fully published them, so we shall see. If you guys have questions, you can keep sending those in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad. We'll work on answering those live. Just make sure you're doing that tag. It really helps us see it in the system. I appreciate that. I'll see you later, Joe Dog. Good luck being an adult. Pop Tarek, do you think Starship will ever stack autonomously? Ooh, that's an interesting question. No, I don't. I mean, maybe. I guess theoretically it's possible. I think there would have to be a lot more sensors, I think, on the ship and the booster to do so. I mean, like we're seeing now, they're lifting it up and down just to make sure it's aligned. And I think because of that, that would be something that autonomously would be a bit harder without more sensors, and more sensors mean more weight. But I wouldn't say never, but I don't see it in the near future. Ian, my plans are clear for today. I'll definitely be seeing everyone in the Discord once the VC starts up. Yeah, I will be jumping in there in a little bit of time. We are watching, if you are watching the ISS crew change of command ceremony, the commander has officially handed over the key to the International Space Station to the new commander as Crew 7 prepares to depart the International Space Station tomorrow, which means we do officially have a new commander on the International Space Station. You can see that change of command ceremony happening at this time with the ceremonial ISS key. Daily, is there a time where rockets will be powered with electricity? I think there could be, well, I feel like rockets generally are going to have combustion in general. In space, yes. Leaving Earth, I doubt it. But great question. Thanks for sending that in. Like a Tesla rocket. Don't give him any ideas. He'll make it happen. And it looks like they've lowered the Starship back down again. We'll see if this time it's aligned enough. Catching up on the chat. You can keep sending those in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad. We'll work on answering those questions live for you. If you haven't yet, also make sure you take a moment and engage that subscribe button so you never miss another live launch coverage, docking, undocking, or return to Earth. It's very close to being lined up properly, but it is just still a hair off. You're just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad. You're looking at a live view of Starship, where SpaceX is currently full stacking Starship S-28 onto Booster 10. We've been watching the ship go up and down as they wait to get it completely aligned. I think it's gone up and down about 3 times here. Ever so slightly be increased, just enough to turn it a little bit. And they're turning it with those chopsticks. They're able to use where it's attached to just twist the ship a little bit. Pop check, how does the ship connect to the booster? So there are points in it, in where there's the two where the two meet. That's where they connect. They connect the ship to the hot fire ring, kind of like a Lego. You guys have questions? You can keep sending those in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad while we wait. If you're just joining us from the ISS change of command ceremony, welcome. Take a moment. Let us know in the chat where you're watching from. You're looking at a punched-in view down at Starbase, Texas, where SpaceX is stacking Starship S-28 onto Booster 10, as we are now 3 days, 19 hours, 49 minutes, 55 seconds, and counting away from Starship Flight 3. Daily, when are we going to have another moon landing? 2026 is the current target for the next moon landing. So no Artemis 2 this year, Artemis 2 next year, and then 1 year after that. That is when they are targeting Artemis 3, but Starship has to work for that first. Mill and Preet, what is the total length of the launch tower, and when will it be increased? So, the length of the tower I'll grab here in just a moment, but this tower will not be increased first. They will build their next tower first, Starship Orbital Launch Pad 2. That tower will have the increased height, and then once that tower is brought online and is operational, they can look at then taking the cap off of Tower 1, adding another segment or 2, and then putting the cap back on. The big thing is there's a lot of electrical wiring and piping that has to be updated, and the biggest thing that has to be changed is the elevator cabling and the chopstick cabling. The chopstick cabling came out of the oil derricks that SpaceX had, so the thing is, if they stretch it, we need to make sure that the cabling is long enough to be able to still work. But we do expect them to start this operation and development of that second pad this year. I would be surprised if we don't see the second tower fully built tower-wise by the end of the year. I would still think it's going to be early next year that we see the first testing and launches from it, though. The current launch tower, though, stands 480 feet tall. And that is the one that is on your screen, well, punched in on your screen currently. Thanks for sending that in. Great question. Nate, I'm just waiting for Artemis 2 mission because Canada, that's why he may not land on the moon, but he will be the first Canadian. Exactly. I had the privilege of meeting Jeremy very briefly at Artemis 1. And we're excited to have a sit-down conversation with him hopefully later this year as we celebrate a Canadian going further than low Earth orbit for the first time. As a Canadian myself, super, super excited. It just feels like that door's opening even more for us. Wish he was on Artemis 3 and was going to land on the moon, but there'll be another Canadian hopefully in the next few Artemises again. I didn't drop anything. I don't know what you're talking about. Nothing dropped at all. It was not the Apollo Lego rocket, so don't worry. It was something else Lego, but it was not space related, so it's okay. Opening a Timmy's on the moon. Oh, I hope so. But McDonald's coffee's a little bit better. Did a Canadian just say that? I know. Am I Canadian still? Artemis 2, not in January. They are targeting the end of the year, so September to November sometime. I believe it was September 2025 and September 2026. The Texas Bandit, we're working on it. Our current manufacturer doesn't do the patches detailed enough, but we are working to bring those out. And we might be able to release some of the limited edition patches like for a couple of days when we get that patch supplier lined up in the near future. Were you meaning the TLP patch or the IFT-3 one? Or both? That's awesome, Ian. I know, Nomad. I'm sorry. Citizenship revoked. Well, yeah. Redirecting it to another great Canadian thing. Yes, the Mighty Canada arm is on the space station, and there will be Gateway 3. A friend of mine actually works on, is working on the development of it. That will be on the Lunar Gateway space station. It's actually going to be 2 arms, where one smaller arm will work on the bigger arm for maintenance and repairs or anything that is needed. Ian, it's okay, Zach, and in the future we can have a TLP team house. That future might not be far off. Things are happening. If you guys have questions, you can keep sending those in the chat. Taking us at the launch pad. We're just waiting for confirmation that the stack has been completed. We don't want to cut away, because if we do, then they'll decide to destack it the moment we do. So we're waiting to confirm that it is fully stacked and ready. And then tomorrow's my exam, and I'm watching this stream for the past 45 minutes. Thank you, TLP, for answering my questions. You're awesome. Thanks so much, and good luck on your exam. We wish you all the best. Nate, maybe this is just a rehearsal for tomorrow. I hope no. Well, I mean, I hope yes, because who doesn't love watching a starship get stacked and destacked? But I kind of hope no, because we want to make sure that it works. And I feel like it's one of those things. The more you play with it, the more likely you're going to break it. That's awesome, Jessica. If you guys have questions, you can keep sending those in the chat. While we wait, we'll take a moment and we'll pull the camera, I think, back out. Take a look at the more general view of all of Starbase here while we await the full stack to be fully completed. Pull this out just in a moment. Give you an idea of the entire scale of the Starship orbital launch pad there. You can see the crane next to it. And off on the side, you can see ship 29. Oh, and look at our timing. That was not planned, but perfect timing that something's heading out of the port. Nomad, is coffee served on the ISS? I believe they have like an instant coffee. They have some kind of instant coffee that they can do on there. Anthony, question: did I miss any news on the upcoming Tower 2? Are they going to work that then directly after I shoot for? So yeah, the next tower, they still have a lot of foundation work to do. The second tower, it looks like, is going to go by where ship 29 is on the right side of your screen. But we haven't had finalized blueprints and things like that at this point. And it does look like those lines have finally lined up on Starship. So hopefully we will have confirmation that stack is complete here momentarily. Millen Preet, can you turn on your face camera? I will on future streams. This was so last minute. We pulled this together. I don't even have my camera plugged in on the system that this is running on. But we will have that in the future. Me and some of our other commentators. At times, we don't want to pull away from anything with our face covering stuff. But at times, we definitely will. Anthony, curious on the timing because they can't really construct while testing and launching. Yeah, so it's an interesting mix. They'll launch and then they probably stack a couple of pieces and then launch again. But also keep in mind how quickly they stacked the one in Florida. They got that tower up within really just a couple of months. So if they've got all the segments already built, and they've done it twice, they could probably get that tower up relatively quickly down at Starbase. I would probably question even within just a couple of weeks if they really tried to, if they have the right wind conditions. And yeah, see, I remember. Yeah, they've different astronauts have brought up different coffees. Millen Preet, are we going to see a Starship parking area or anything like that in space in the coming years? Well, the orbital transfer depot will be up in orbit, and then they will have most likely a parking lot here on Earth. I'm not sure if they'll just leave starships in orbit just for the sake of it, but never know. Anthony, they asked for 9 launches this year. I assume more next year. How many do you think? Ooh, I really don't know how to guess on that one. It really all depends how things go. Um, I mean, realistically, they want to launch once a day eventually, but maybe we round it up and say once a week. I don't think they'll be at that point by early next year, but maybe by the end of next year. So maybe say 30, 35 next year. And then the year after that, maybe once a week or once every, 4 or 5 days. I'll have to wait and see what happens. Vinay, how many SpaceX launches will be from Falcon this year? They are targeting 148 Falcon 9 launches this year. Is that you able to zoom in on S29? Are the flaps open or closed? They are open. Yeah, the flaps are sitting straight out. I can move the camera left just a little bit, and you can see that probably a little clearer. More little bump there. A little bit more. There we go. They've already... SpaceX is at 14 launches, I think. Oh, maybe even more than that now. 16 launches? I'd have to double check for this year already. Want to give some shout outs to some people that have placed some orders. Thank you so much. We appreciate you checking out the shop. We got Richard, the IFT-3. We got Kelly. Thank you so much for grabbing something there with the launch countdown. And Eric as well. Thank you so much. We appreciate your guys' support in placing those orders. We'll get those off to you right away. Ian, love the prototype phone case. That's awesome, Ian. We appreciate that. Yeah, we're going to roll out some more of those in the near future. I appreciate that, Tom Kirkman. No rush at all. We appreciate you checking out the store. We know there's lots of stuff, and we're always adding new things every few weeks, so definitely always check those out. Yes, Ian. I don't know how that happened, but you are correct. You're the only one with the one that, for some reason, printed off center. If you're just joining us, you're looking at a live view of Starbase, Texas, where SpaceX has fully stacked Starship onto Booster 10. We're waiting for the confirmation that stacking is complete down on the launch site. Just some of the camera settings here. A little bit clearer of a view. It's a little bit of a gray day down at Starbase, but that's okay. Makes it a little easier for us to see because there's no of the F word, which we're not going to say. Because if you say it, it comes back, and we don't want that. If you guys have questions, you can keep sending those in the chat by taking us at the launch pad, and we'll work on answering those live as we continue. Jessica, not that one. Millenpreet, does SpaceX really need to orbital fuel transferring to reach more? They need it to reach the moon. Starship can only reach low Earth orbit without a fuel transfer. So to go anywhere else, they need to fuel transfer in low Earth orbit. So, good question. Thanks for sending that in. It does look like they've stacked. They haven't lifted it in a little while, so that's hopefully a good sign. And Vinay, yes, we are still waiting for the FAA launch license. But we are waiting to see what's going on there. I might zoom back in, keep an eye on what's happening actually with the quick disconnect arm and see if it's moving in at all, because that ultimately will be a sign that they have completed the stacking operation. So let's punch back in on the tower and the ship. Put your seatbelts on just in case. There we go. So we're now keeping a close eye on that quick disconnect arm to see it perfectly move into place here to complete the Starship stacking sequence. Fred, thanks so much for becoming a Martian explorer. We appreciate that. Thanks for your support. And Rodney, that's exactly what it stands for. You nailed it. Now they're doing their job. They know what they're doing. We need them to make sure everything stays safe. Brandon, thank you so much for sending in your order on the shop as well. Ooh, I'm excited to see some things that you have picked up. We hope you enjoy those. We'll get those out to you right away. Thank you so much for your support and checking that out. Soon, Jessica. Soon, soon, soon. Golden helmet. For those wondering, the helmet colors, the longer you are a TLP member here on the channel, your helmet color changes. And we're rolling out some new ones because, shockingly, some of you have been members for almost 3 years already. But we'll have all the way up to 4 years that you can have a different color helmet. So it's a really neat way of getting to see how long someone's been around, been a member, and appreciate all of your support. But from day one, you do get a little bit, you get that helmet there. It does look like they're still playing around with this alignment of Starship. Keeping a close eye on that ship to see if we see them start lifting it again. Just some of the settings here. See if we can make it a little clearer for you guys. Learning a new camera, so appreciate your patience. Does look like it maybe moved a little bit out of alignment again, but we'll wait and see what happens with that quick disconnect there. Mill Preet, how does hot staging work exactly? So they will shut down most of the engines on the booster, and then they ignite the Starship's engines. And because you have those that ring of air gaps, basically, of venting, they are able to ignite those ship's engines, and they have a dome in there. So the flames hit the dome and then go out the sides of the grid area of the booster, and then that's how they separate. And then the booster can shut down its engines or conduct its boost back without fully shutting down. But the ship then can ignite. With Falcon 9, we see them shut down all the engines on the first stage, so it actually stalls and starts to lose speed for a moment. We see separation, and then they ignite the second stage, and it picks up speed again, and then continues on. So that's where the slight difference is. They don't really lose any speed because they're still under thrust the entire way. For Hia, sorry if I'm saying that wrong. Thinking IFT-3 will be March. I hope so. IFT-4 maybe July, IFT-5 September, and then OFT-1 in December. Interesting. You think they're going to need 2 more flight tests before they do an orbital? Interesting thought. That's a great question. Let us know in the chat, how many more flight tests do you think we see before we see a Starship get into orbit and stay in orbit, and then they have to deorbit, burn it to bring it home? Let us know in the chat. You can keep sending in those questions as well by tagging us at the launch pad. Milan Preet says 5, Nomad 2 to 3 more. Paul says 2. Tom Kirkman, 3rd time's the charm. That's my hope. I mean, this is different compared to the last one, but I do hope you were right. Ingenious thinks OFT in July. Ian, I think I agree with you. If IFT-3 works, they'll do another IFT first. Same with Nate, yeah. Yeah, no, I think I agree. OFT-1 after IFT-4. Which is funny since we all started calling these originally OFTs. And then we all transitioned to IFTs. And the funny thing is I've talked to some people within SpaceX. They never called it IFT or OFT. That's what the community called it. And then their staff started referring it to as that, and then that's what ended up starting to appear on paperwork. So we've named part of it. So I think earlier we had the suggestion that FTS is now going to be called boom boxes. So stay tuned for the boombox merch, but that'll be what we call them from now on. We do have an amazing team of moderators, Anthony. We appreciate them all so much. Wouldn't be possible without all of them. If you guys are interested in joining the TLP crew, we can drop that application link in the chat. It's free to apply. We have a whole bunch of positions open that we'd love to invite some of you to, including moderators, as we'll be expanding out to bring you all this Starbase coverage. There'll be a lot more shows and live coverage commentary events, so we're excited to welcome some more of you onto the TLP crew in positions that have never even existed before. And that's exactly right there, Anthony. It's important to understand that IFT are prototypes. While they have a lot of views, they are not production vehicles. Like many test flights, failure is expected, but that's how they learn. Yeah, you nailed it right there. Nailed it there, Anthony. Millen Pre, just imagine Elon entering the chat. That would be amazing. I have been around Elon once at the Starship update, and he's a pretty amazing person. You can't help but recognize, just even following him. He is very smart. He's very methodical. He thinks through a lot of things. He thinks more complexly than a lot of people. Like everyone, we all have our faults, but I think he's a really smart person, and we wouldn't be having a Starship program if it wasn't for him. So we all have a lot of thanks to give for Elon. So and that's true, Nomad. No two Starships have been really the same, and I think, like Ian says, S28 and 29, they're probably really the closest to each other. And yeah, Anthony, what would the commentary have been like on the Falcon 9 ones? Yeah, there wasn't really as much coverage back then, really. There wasn't as many, broadcasts. I watched a number of the test flights myself, but obviously I wasn't YouTubing and stuff just yet. But yeah, there's a lot of, it'd be interesting to see what it'd be like for that. And we now get to kind of see that with all these other vehicles that are coming online. But yeah, Falcon had a lot of failures, especially if you consider Falcon 1. Millipreet, how much water does a flame diverter eject during a launch? I do not believe we have a number on that specifically, because it all depends on when the second they ignite it and how it runs through the plumbing. But it's a lot. It's a lot of water. The quick disconnect arm has not moved into place just yet. It is still retracted away from the vehicle. We're waiting for them to confirm stacking. Taking them a bit longer than normal to stack here. They went up incredibly quickly, but now for the last hour they've been working to actually even just get the vehicle aligned. Very interesting. Aren, the drone does seem to be gone. We were watching for that. One thing we are noticing that someone called out is the stabilizer pins on Starship were retracted away about 35 minutes ago, and over the last 5 minutes or so, those pins have now been installed onto Starship. So they have reconnected. You can see just at the very top of your screen, and maybe I'll bump the camera up a notch or two here for you to be able to see that. But at the bottom of the chopsticks, you can see those V's that come down from it on the side of the Starship. Those are the stabilizers, and those were retracted away from the ship, which is what they do when they are, looking to rotate it or something. But they have reset those stabilizers in it. We'll wait to see if they retract them away again, but that's interesting, something to see what ultimately they will be doing as we await to hopefully have a full stack Starship. For Haria, sorry if I'm saying that wrong. When will the flight restriction evacuation zone be issued? Evacuation zones normally like 24 hours before or less, closer to like 12 to 18 hours before. So normally like the morning or afternoon of the day before. And then the flight restriction I expect to see probably on Monday, if everything is going well. Thanks for sending that in. Tom Kirkman, thanks very much for being here. We appreciate you. Tom's got to run, but he says appreciate it answering the questions and hanging out. Go SpaceX and go Starship. We hope to see you around, Tom. Thanks for being here. If you're new, make sure you engage that subscribe button and welcome here. My name's Zach. I'm the founder and host here at the Launchpad. And here at the Launchpad Network, it's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow, because we believe that space is better together. And we're bringing you full live Starbase coverage and launch coverage from around the world. We are just 3 days, 19 hours, 10 minutes, 25 seconds, and counting away from the flight of Starship on its third flight test. SpaceX has been almost in a way attempting to stack Starship this morning. They've just had a little bit slower of a process than we're all kind of used to as they've continued along the way. But we're keeping a close eye on it as they continue here this morning. You can keep sending in your questions in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad, and we'll work on answering those live. Jedi Master, hello from Titusville, Florida. Hello, great to see you. Love being down in Titusville on the Space Coast. Well, that's awesome, Jedi Master. Always nice to have a view for the launches. Hey, Spaceflight, welcome. Great to have you here. If you're just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad. We are waiting confirmation of a full stack of Starship. Are still waiting few things, approvals that we need for the third flight test, like the final flight restriction for the United States and the evacuation notice for Boca Chica Village, as well as the FAA launch license. If everything follows how previous ones have gone, we expect to receive all of those probably within the next 36 to 48 hours. But we'll be keeping, of course, a close eye on that. Nomad, has SpaceX finalized designs for the cargo doors or just the PEZ launcher? That is a good question. We haven't had a Starship update in a while, so I'm sure there is more things they have confirmed than we know. So there's definitely lots of things that they have worked on that they know that we don't. And with that, we don't want to hypothesize, but they're still learning what Starship can do, what the final Starship design will be. And I think once they have that, that's when you'll see them start to really finalize designs. Three years ago, SN10 flight. Wow, was that today? 3 years ago today? Wow, I remember that. It was a good flight. Yeah, that's an idea there to helping with the alignment. I think that's one of the things, they're learning is just how to align these best, because you don't want to add too much to the ship because then you're adding more weight that it has to fly with. But You also don't want to be spending 6 hours aligning when they want to try to eventually have these turning around in just a few hours. Well, I mean, technically, this one's going to have a fully functioning cargo bay. They're going to open the door. So it just may or may not deploy anything. We don't know yet. Millen Pre, was choosing Pi Day a coincidence or was it planned? Well, if they planned the day, I don't think they plan launches around Pi Day, but it sounds like a really good reason to have Pi. Pi Day and a Starship flight? I mean, that sounds like a good time to me. I might have to get a pie for during the broadcast. What type of pie should we have in the TLP studio for launch day? Let me know in the chat. Officer 72K, I'm going to guess pad fallback. Ooh, we don't want that. No, 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 no. No, no, no pad fallbacks. That would be months and months and months of delays. We do not want to see that happen. There we go. We got a poll in the chat. We want to hear from you. And Starship looks like it is going. Is it going back up? Yeah, it looks like it's going back up. Yep, they are lifting Starship again. It is now increasing in height. It looks like increasing a bit more than we've seen the last few times. So they're really having issues aligning this ship. We got that poll there. What type of pie should TLP crew have on Starship launch day / pie day? Apple, cherry, pumpkin, or other? If you're saying other, I know there's so many. Like, cheesecake pie, blueberry, Saskatoon. And then you could do all the combo ones like strawberry rhubarb. So many options, but we want to hear from you guys in the poll there what type we should have. Right now, Apple's winning 50% of the vote. So let your voice be heard. You will decide what type of pie we have in the studio. And you can see there the sky starting to peak between the ship and the booster, definitely lifting it more than they have before. They are definitely going up again. We'll see if they align it or if they ultimately decide to destack it. We'll have to wait and see. But you can definitely see that sky starting to peak between now the ship and the booster. If you guys have questions, you can send those in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad. Mustard pineapple. That will never happen, Jessica. No, you there. The super chats that would have to come in for me to eat a mustard pineapple pie. I don't even know what the number would be. I'm not even putting a number out there because someone crazy would actually donate it. Cherry pie. Ooh, a raspberry pie. That could be good too. But it looks like apple pie is winning. 53% of the vote. I do appreciate that cherry and pumpkin. Well, cherry and pumpkin were tied, but it looks like apple pie is winning. If you're just joining us, you're looking at a live view of Starbase, Texas, where SpaceX is currently in the process of stacking Starship, and we have seen that more air has come in. We're gonna see if we can get even closer in on here. We're gonna play around with this camera a little bit more. Obviously, the more we zoom in, the more it does distort just a little bit. But you can see there very clearly that sky area between the ship and the booster visible, which they have been going up and down, trying to get this ship and booster aligned perfectly so that they can release the weight for the last just about an hour and a half. And at this point, they have not been able to do it just yet. Anthony, thank you so much for that super chat. What can you tell us about the new extended ship? I think it got called 3.0, but Grok refuses to mention anything about Concrete L. Yeah, so 3.0, the new extended Starship that they'll need the new launch site for. We got a little bit of a shake there in the camera. Stand by for that to ease out there. Sorry about that. The new extended ship, we don't fully know if it's the ship, the booster, or both that are being extended. We believe it's probably both, but it is with the Raptors becoming more efficient, just like the Merlins on Falcon 9. They're able to hold more propellant, which makes them push further, which means they could actually carry more payload. So we don't have a lot of details on whether there will be more cargo space, more fuel space, or both on the ship, and we're waiting to find that out. But if they are more efficient on the booster, that means the ship's fuel can go further, which means they could theoretically carry more weight for the same amount of fuel. So definitely something we're keeping an eye on and hope to see, but it'll be a little bit of time until we see that next generation of Starship out on the pad. Officer, can they install the FTS without a license? Yes, they have already done so. So FTS is installed. Millen Preet, is there any chances of damaging the booster during a stacking? There's definitely always a risk for it. It does look like that ship is being lowered, as we can't see that view of the daylight coming in between the booster and the ship anymore. So we're going to see if this is the final time. But they're going up and down and up and down. Hey, Cap, good to see you. Go Starship, absolutely. Cheese and onion pie? Oh, Helen. No. No. No fruit and onion pie. If you guys have questions, you can send those in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad. We'll work on answering those live. Appreciate you all being here. We're working on the focus of the camera here. We did punch it in a lot for you guys. We might end up zooming it out just a little bit, just to have a little bit of a clearer view. But wanted to see ultimately what we can do. You're dealing with that haze, and that's just the distance and the heat haze that exists. That ultimately comes with shooting how far that we ultimately are shooting. We're going to zoom it out just a little bit here. Get a little bit more of a stable view for you guys. Make sure none of you are getting motion sick on that camera there. But this time Starship is stacked. We're waiting to see if they confirm it with the big clunk and probably a tweet on their X or a post on X confirming stacking. But we do have that full Starship there, and we're keeping an eye on the quick disconnect arm as well. That'll be what gives us a really good sign that the stacking has been completed. But we'll keep an eye on that over the coming minutes, hopefully. Mill and Preet, are those grid fins supposed to be open like that? Will they fly with them open? Yes. So the Starship grid fins always stay open. They've determined that those Starship fins being open create not enough of an impact on flight, and to be able to close them, they have to add a lot more weight to the vehicle, which means they can't carry as much. So ultimately, the very little amount that they lose by flying with them open is far of a greater reward than it would be if they for folding them. So yes, they will stay open. They do turn though, so they still do have the actuator in them for turning. Oh my, Jessica, your pie choices. No. Just say no. You guys are just joining us. Welcome here to the launch pad. You're looking at a live view of Ship 28 and Booster 10 out on the orbital launch pad at Starbase, Texas, where we are now just under 91 hours away from flight, or 3 days, 18 hours, 51 minutes, and counting. And we are excited to have you all joining us live here. If you haven't yet, you can let us know in the chat where you're watching from. Maybe you're just joining us. Make sure you engage that like button, subscribe, so you never miss another Starbase live coverage or live launch coverage. We got 2 Falcon 9 launches happening later today that we hope you will join us for. If you haven't yet, also make sure you join us over on the TLP Discord. That's where our community hangs out in between streams, and we'd love to see you in there. I know sometimes we got watch parties going on. I'm not sure if we've got anyone in live comms right now, but you guys are always welcome to jump in there and have watch parties and chat about everything. We'll probably have to make a new area for Starbase, Starbase comms for those that want to monitor the camera and things. But we're super excited to have all of you here because space is better together. Thanks for dropping that in there, the Discord link in there, Ian. I appreciate that. Nomad, I wonder if they can attach 3 boosters to make a Starship heavy. There, Elon's made a joke about it. I'm not sure the ships would have the strength to attach. They would have to really change the structure of the booster to have the center booster able to hold the side boosters. But never say never. It'd be quite interesting to see how you would stack that, though. Would you have to roll the 3 of them out together? Like, would you build it as one big booster? Or would it be 3 boosters? Lots of questions. Spireman 2005. I'm watching from England. Welcome. Great to have you here. Are you okay with newbies? Absolutely. Feel free to ask anything you like. We'd love to have you here. Thanks for joining us. Keeping a close eye on Starship. It's been going up and down and up and down. We're waiting for confirmation that they have actually landed the booster. Spaceflight X, will you stream Ariane 6? Yes, we will. Yes, we will not miss the maiden flight of that, absolutely. We're actually hoping to maybe even try to get down there. We'll have to see what happens. I was shocked hearing that Starship alone is taller than the Statue of Liberty. You were definitely join us on our IFT-3 coverage, the Flight Test 3 launch day coverage. We've got some really awesome overlays and stuff that we'll be bringing on air to help you just have a better idea on the true size of Starship and the Starbase launch facility and all of that. So make sure you definitely join us for that. We're excited to be able to give a little bit of a clearer idea because it is quite a large vehicle, and it's like many different things. It's like the VAB in Florida and Starbase and other places that if there's nothing around it, it's really hard to tell how big it is. And then once you put something around it, you're like, wow. Like that crane next to the Starbase thing. You couldn't tell how big this is if you didn't know how big a person is next to Starship, right? So we've got some ideas on how we're going to be able to show that during the IFT-3 launch day coverage. So make sure you stay tuned for that, for sure. You guys have questions? You keep sending those in the chat by taking us at the launch pad. Does look like they've lined it up again. We'll see if they lock it down this time. Nate, I think S-29 should be moving from a suborbital pad to a safe location. I would think so, and we're going to keep an eye on that. Spaceflight, they still have time to S-29 on 14. That's true. And it doesn't take long to roll back a Starship either. They can do an intermittent row closure. But it looks like a full stack to me. But we're waiting to see if they confirm it with putting that quick disconnect arm against the ship. Jessica, I have so many pie ideas. Many pie ideas. Are they good pie ideas? That is the question. So the sign we're looking for is for that quick disconnect arm to start moving. If we see that, that's a good sign that they have completed the stacking. They've been playing around with the alignment of the ship on top of the booster for, where are we at now? About 2 hours. They stacked very quickly here this morning, and then we've been playing the alignment game for the last about 2 hours. All watching that quick disconnect arm. That is the sign we are looking for. It has to just swing over against the vehicle and attach. That is the sign that full stack is complete. So we're waiting for that, and hopefully we will see that in the very near future. Yeah, Gavin, always great to see a full stack on the pad. It is. I know you are super excited to see that as you're getting ready to head on out there for us. Hopefully we have some nice, beautiful, clear weather. Gavin is one of our amazing TLP rocket chasers. There's a 12-hour closure for tomorrow, so probably S-29 testing. It's definitely possible. It is definitely possible. Anthony, any chance they do a second wet dress rehearsal? There's always the possibility. I think it depends on if they can refuel the tank farm enough. That's the biggest thing. Just like if they go for a launch attempt and they have to scrub, and then they go for one and scrub, they do need a couple of days to refill the tank farm. Same thing with SLS. They have a recycle time between each flight attempt they can do. So I think Starship's kind of the same thing. So could they do another wet dress rehearsal tomorrow and still have time to refill the tank farm? Probably, because you do recover most of the fuel in a wet dress rehearsal, or the propellant. But yeah, it's definitely a possibility. I don't know why they would, but excuse me, that time change kills all of us. Excuse me. Ooh, apple pie with ice cream. That does sound good, Helen. Or pumpkin pie with whipped cream. Ian, I woke up just in time when the time change killed me. Yeah. Yeah, I'm lucky enough we had some team monitoring it. So they all made sure that I was up and ready. By the time we got the stream going, they was already halfway up. They lifted it very quickly. Jessica, wait, time change? Yes, it is now daylight savings. Or are we in daylight savings or we left it? Yeah, I think we're into daylight savings now. So the clock changed. It is currently 1:21 p.m. Eastern Time. If you are in England, though, you do not change for a couple more weeks. You change on March 31st. Yeah, Canada and the U.S. sprung forward. If you're just joining us, we're waiting to see that quick disconnect arm move into place as SpaceX is finishing the stacking of Starship in preparation for its third flight. Officer, is this the final stack? Uh, I mean, SpaceX hasn't said that, but we would expect that just with how close to launch we are. But if for any reason they think they need to destack it, they will. That can be from them needing to work on something to just weather, if it gets too windy, and different things like that. Uh, Psychonaut, didn't they destack and replace a few grid motors the day before launch? They did. So they can destack and restack very quickly. They did that really just overnight for that one. So it is definitely possible. And if you're just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad. You are looking at a live view of Starbase, Texas from our TLP Starbase cam as we have been watching SpaceX for the last 3 hours stack Starship in preparation for Flight 3. They've had to lift the ship a number of times, but everything does look like it has been aligned now, and we are waiting to have the confirmation with that quick disconnect arm rolling into place, but at this time we have not seen anything as of yet. And it does look like crews are returning to the launch pad area at this time, which is a good sign that stacking has been completed if they're allowing crew in the area. But that quick disconnect arm has not moved just yet. If you guys have questions, you can keep sending those in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad, and we'll work on answering those live. You can also join the TLP Discord. A bunch of people hanging out in comms. We got Cap, Ian, Joseph, Signey. Great to see you all in there. Might jump in a little bit, say hello. We are, of course, also counting down. We have 2 launches happening later today, 2 Falcon 9s, both Starlink missions. One launching from Slick 40 at Cape Canaveral, that's targeting 7:05 p.m. Eastern, and the other at 10:13 p.m. Eastern, launching from Vandenberg in California. Of course, we'll bring those both to you live. Also, early tomorrow, we have Electron flying out of New Zealand, so we hope you'll join us back here for that. Here at the launch pad, we bring you full live commentary coverage of all the launches around the world. Starpath Ship 29 testing today and then rollout. We'll have to wait to see if we ultimately have some S29 testing or not. We will switch the overlay there to say that Starship is stacked, because at this time it is. We just don't have the quick disconnect in place just yet, but there are people returning to the base of the orbital launch mount, and it looks like doing some work in preparation for who knows what. We'll be keeping an eye on that. Jessica, can I be in charge of catering for the next TLP meetup? After some of the pie suggestions that we have had from you today, I think we would need a tasting menu, and we would have to pick everything ourselves. But I don't think our team would ever say no to food. It does involve traveling, though. I'm feeding a lot of people. Yeah, see, there's Gavin right away. Bring samples right away. Not any question. Just bring samples. And taking a look at a wide shot of Starbase, you can see the full stacked Starship on the orbital launch mount. You can also see Ship 29 on Pad B on the right side of your screen. Starpath, do you think launch will be on the 14th, or how many times delayed? I hope so. I think everything's pointing to them being ready. Big question is, do they get the FAA? It is only a targeted launch date, so we'll have to wait to see. There is scaffolding that needs to be removed from the top of the orbital launch mount, so we'll have to wait to see when that gets removed and go from there. Great question. But with people now having arrived at the launch site, it does look like that full stack operation is complete. They don't normally allow people down at the base of the pad if they're doing stacking operations, obviously for safety. You don't want to risk dropping a Starship on people. We are going to wrap up our commentary coverage for the Starship stacking. If you are watching on YouTube and it is on a stream that says live Starship IFT-3 stacking, you can head on over to our live Starship IFT-3 countdown stream. That stream will be staying up 24/7 with the Launchpad cam, and we will be bringing commentary updates on there periodically as we get them. But our IFT-3 stream, that is going to wrap it up for us for this is really exciting to say, we didn't think it would happen this quickly, our first ever TLP completely our own camera broadcast covering a Starship full stacking or any testing at Starbase. This is just the beginning. Again, a huge thank you to John for helping us get this all set up, and excited to have you as part of our team. Thank you to you, the community. These type of cameras and expansions are only possible thanks to your generous support, and that support doesn't only include financially. By watching, by sharing, by liking, that is just as important and helpful as it is for those that super chat and are members. So thank you so much. This is, as we keep saying, just the start. This is camera 1. There are many cameras in the plans, not only at Starbase but around the world, and we're excited to bring those to you, because here at the Launchpad, it's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow, because we believe that space is better together. We hope that you'll join us back here on the Launchpad later today for the 2 SpaceX Falcon 9 launches, and stay with us on our 24/7 Launchpad cam as we count down to launch of Starship Flight 3 from Starbase, Texas. But for now, my name's Zach, and we'll see you soon, because space is better together. Goodbye.